there, welcome back to my channel. My name is Shelby and today I'm going to be starting my second round of reading Booktuber recommendations for a week. Earlier this month I did a romance version of this video. I read 6 different recommendations from 6 different booktubers, and it was a great way to shout out some smaller booktubers because everyone I'm including in these videos have under like 5,000 subscribers, so I really enjoy spreading the love. So since my last video was romances, I'm going to be focusing on thrillers this time. So like in my last video, I'm going to be reading 6 recommendations from 6 booktubers, and my favorite part of the video was talking about each channel and what I loved about them. So I'm quickly going to go over all of the channels that I'm including in this video and all of their recommendations. I will link all the booktubers down below that I mentioned, as well as all the books that they recommend me. So let's hop right into it. The first person I have is the Girly Girl Bookworm, and this is Nicole. And Nicole is one of the very first booktubers I started watching years ago. She's had her booktube channel for at least 5 years, and I remember watching her videos when she first started making them, and I really connected with her content. And her and I have become really good friends, and she's a new mom. She had her daughter Sydney a couple of months ago, and my favorite videos from her are definitely her reading vlogs. She's been doing weekly reading vlogs for a while, and I love seeing what she's reading, but also kind of seeing what she's doing in her daily life. She does a lot of other types of videos too, but I think her vlogs are what really draws her viewers in. And the book she recommended to me was The Good Neighbor by AJ Banner. I've read 2 other books by AJ Banner, and one of them was actually recommended to me by Nicole. I don't know the premise of this book, but if it's anything like AJ Banner's other books, I'm sure it'll be kind of short, and it's some kind of mystery suspense book. And this one is currently on Kindle Unlimited. All of AJ Banner's books are now on Kindle Unlimited, so if you want to check it out through Kindle Unlimited, it is available. The next channel I have to talk about is Weeby Bookin', and this is Jacqueline. She talks about mostly thrillers, but she does like some romance here and there. And I've been doing the thriller talks after dark as well as night marathon with both Jacqueline and Kendra, and I had so much fun doing both of those things, and I've been enjoying the thriller talks every month. And some of my favorite videos of hers lately have been her try a chapter tag. She's been doing try a chapter tags for horror books, and I just love those types of videos because I get an idea of maybe what books I want to pick up, and you get a little sampling of what the first chapter is about, and I really enjoy those videos. And the book she recommended to me was Close My Eyes by Sophie Mackenzie, and I remember she mentioned this on her channel months ago, and ever since I've been kind of wanting to read it. I read one other book by Sophie Mackenzie and I thought it was just okay, but I heard that this one was better than the other one I read, so I'm really hoping I love it. I have a copy out from my library, so I'm really excited to pick it up. The next booktuber I have to talk about is Beth and the Books, and her and I are also really good friends. She makes a lot of the traditional booktube videos. She's been participating in some readathons lately, and I just think she is such a sweetheart, and I really enjoy chatting with her. And the book she recommended to me was Into the Darkest Corner. I have absolutely no idea what this one is about, but she did rate it 5 stars on Goodreads, so that is why I chose it. I also already own a physical copy of this. I picked it up months ago at a used bookstore, and I've yet to read it, so I figured now would be the perfect time to read it. The next booktuber I have to talk about is A Beautiful Chaos of Books, and this is Nicole, and she is from the UK, and I really enjoy all of her videos, specifically ones that focus on thrillers. She reads mostly thrillers, and so I love that I get a lot of thriller content when I watch her videos. She does traditional types of videos like wrap-ups and TBRs and participates in readathons, and she's also co-hosted a readathon called Thrillerathon, which I really enjoyed. But one of my favorite videos of hers is her Thrillopoly Chooses Her TBR, and that's where she has kind of a Monopoly board, and it's all about thriller prompts, and it picks her TBR, and that is a lot of fun, and I think that is one of my favorite videos of hers. The book I'm going to be reading per her recommendation is Before I Go to Sleep by S.J. Watson. I picked this up months ago off of Book Outlet without knowing what it was about. I just knew it had high ratings on Goodreads, but then I kept hearing Nicole talk about this on her channel, so I knew I had to read it. And this one I know is some type of amnesia thriller. Other than that, I have no idea what it's about, so I really look forward to seeing if I love it. The next channel I have to talk about is Tia and All the Books, and I really love Tia's personality. She is such a sweet person, and she is also a military spouse and mom, and I love that about her. She reads a wide variety of genres. She reads historical fiction, women's fiction, romance, thrillers, even some like sci-fi and fantasy, so anything that you like, I'm sure she probably reads something from that genre. She makes a lot of different types of videos, but lately my favorite videos of hers are the plan with me type of videos. She has a reading journal, and she does spreads in them and films it, and it includes a lot of stickers, and they're just so cute, and I think that's been my favorite video of hers lately. And the book she recommended to me was The Broken Girls by Simone St. James. I've heard her mention it on her channel a couple of times, and I've been dying to read it anyway, especially since I just read The Sundown Motel. I know this is a dual timeline spooky ghost story set at a boarding school, So I'm hoping that I love this one just as much as the Sundown Motel. The last channel I have to talk about is Chapter and Converse. And this is Audrey, and I really enjoy her content. And I know she is in the middle of writing her own novel, and so she's not only a reader, but she's a writer. And I think my favorite video of hers currently is her monthly reading rewind. So that's her version of her wrap up, and she kind of goes in depth of her feelings about all the books, and she does talk about them in length. So if you want to get some really in-depth thoughts about books, I definitely think you would like Audrey's channel. And the book she recommended is Post-mortem by Patricia Cornwell. And this one is actually an older book, and I have one of the anniversary editions. And I think she's read it more than once. I think she read it once when it first came out, and she read it again recently to kind of see if it stood the test of time, and she did love it, and she kind of compared it to Karen Slaughter's grittiness. And so I'm hoping I love this book in this series just as much as I love Karen Slaughter's crime series. So I'm so excited to pick this one up, and hopefully I find a new series I love. So those are the 6 booktubers I'm going to be reading books from. I am so excited to be reading their recommendations. Today is actually Sunday, November 10th, and I've already started my first book for this video. Last night before I went to bed, I picked up The Broken Girls by Simone St. James. And like I said, this is a dual timeline ghost story set at a boarding school. The 2 timelines are 2014 and 1950. And we're following a set of girls who are at this boarding school in 1950. And it's kind of a creepy boarding school, and it's well known around the school that there's possibly like a ghost there, and these weird stories about things happening to people in regard to this ghost. And we're following each individual girl, and things start happening to them, and they start hearing voices, they think they see things, and it's very atmospheric. And we jump forward to 2014, and we're following a woman named Fiona, and she is a journalist, and she lives in the town where that boarding school was, but it has since closed down. But 20 years ago, Fiona's sister went missing, and she was found murdered on the lawn of that boarding school. And so she's had a lot of negative memories in regard to that. And it's been made publicized that the boarding school is being renovated and it's going to be reopened. And that brings back a lot of wounds for Fiona. And so she decides she wants to write a story about it and sell it to the local newspaper. And crazy enough, a teenage girl's body is found dead in the well on the campus, and it belongs to one of the girls that we are following back in 1950. So we're kind of wondering how that girl got there, what happened, is it paranormal, is it not? And so far I'm about a third of the way through, and I'm really enjoying it. I don't know if I like it quite as much as the Sundown Motel, but it is spooky and atmospheric. It is gripping me, it's just a little bit on the slow side. So I'm gonna get some more reading done, and I will come back and update you guys later. Okay, so it's 6 o'clock now, and I am 75% of the way through The Broken Girls by Simone St. James. I'm really enjoying this atmospheric ghost story. It is a little bit on the slower side, so if you don't like slow-paced mysteries, this one might not be for you. But it is very atmospheric, like I said, and really creepy. There have been several scenes so far with like a ghost kind of element that have been really creepy and almost given me the shivers. It takes a lot for me to feel kind of creeped out while reading a book. And Simone St. James does a really good job of making you feel like you are there in the moment and that you are experiencing what these characters are experiencing. What I really like about this is it's told in dual timelines, and I love thrillers and mysteries told in dual timelines because I love it when there's an old mystery and someone currently is trying to solve it. That's what I loved about the Sundown Motel, and I'm really enjoying The Broken Girls for the same reason. Basically, the girl currently, Fiona, she is trying to discover what happened to the girl that died back in 1950. And we are also seeing firsthand what is happening in 1950 and kind of counting down the days until the girl dies. And like I said earlier, we're seeing through the perspective of all the different girls in that friend group. I think they are all roommates, and one of the roommates dies, and all of them kind of know that she died, but no one believes them. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I'm hoping to finish this tonight, but if I don't finish it tonight, I will finish it in the morning. And when I do, I will come back and update you. Okay, so it's the next morning. It is Monday, November 11th. And today is actually Veterans Day here in the United States, and my husband has the day off from work because he is active duty military. So today we're just going to relax and kind of celebrate him and his service. I know you guys are here for the books, but my husband's service is really important to me, so Veterans Day is also really important to me. I wanted to share a photo with you guys for my husband's last deployment. He came back when I was 27 weeks pregnant, just about to get into my 3rd trimester, and he missed my whole 2nd trimester of my pregnancy. And he did that because he was sacrificing and working hard for our family. It was such a happy reunion, and it's a memory I will never forget. And I just love this photo because every time I look at it, it makes me smile, and it brings me back to that day and how happy I was. and he is actually due to deploy again in February, and it's going to be his first deployment since Avery was born, and I'm very nervous for it, but I am so thankful for him and his service. And I just wanted to briefly mention that because today is Veterans Day and I don't get to really mention it too often on my channel. But now onto the books. Last night I ended up finishing The Broken Girls by Simone St. James. Last time I checked in, I was like 3/4 of the way through, and I just powered through and finished it before bed last night, and I really enjoyed this one. I don't think I liked it quite as much as The Sundown Motel, but this one I ended up giving 4 stars. I really did enjoy it. It was so spooky and atmospheric, and the ghost Mary Hand, she really creeped me out on several occasions. Simone St. James does a great job at making me feel like I'm in her settings, and I really liked this slow burn mystery. So if you like those kind of historical, slow-paced mysteries, I think you would really enjoy this one. So this one is definitely a win, and I'm really happy that I picked it up. And then this morning I ended up waking up really early, so I ended up picking up my next book, and that is Before I Go to Sleep by S.J. Watson. And this one is the movie tie-in edition, so I guess it was made into a movie, so I'll have to check that out eventually because so far I'm really enjoying this book. This is about a woman who has amnesia, and she keeps waking up every day, and it's kind of like a sinister version of 50 First Dates if you've seen the movie, where she can't process new memories, so every time she goes to sleep she forgets the memories from the day before. So Christine wakes up every day and she learns she has this husband named Ben, so every day she has to relearn that she's married, where she lives, everything like that, and that she had an accident that landed her without her memory. And she gets a call on her cell phone one day from a man that she has no idea who he is, and he claims to be a therapist that has been working with her to retain her memories. But apparently her husband Ben has no idea about this man, and she's been meeting with this doctor secretly, and she's been keeping this diary where she writes down every day's memories that she learns. She writes down all of the meetings with this therapist, and she keeps it hidden so Ben won't find it. And this is one of those stories where you don't know who you can trust because Ben seems kind of sinister, but also her therapist might seem like he has ulterior motives. You're just not really sure. And I love books about amnesia. It's just kind of hard to talk about because I don't want to give spoilers, because you're learning about her at the same rate that she is. So I'm really enjoying it so far. I am already 248 pages in, and it's only around 360. The only downside is the chapter lengths are all over the place. Some of them are like 5 to 10 pages, but others are like 30 to 40 pages. And I don't know about you guys, but 30 to 40 page chapters are just so clunky and they take forever to get through. And I forgot to mention, but this one was recommended to me by Nicole over at A Beautiful Chaos of Books. And I'm really happy that she had mentioned it because it was just sitting on my shelves not being read, and I never had a desire to pick it up until she mentioned it. And I'm really glad I did because I'm really liking it. So when I finish this one, I will come back and update you guys. Okay, so it's several hours later. It is nearly 4 o'clock, and earlier today I finished Before I Go to Sleep by S.J. Watson. Surprisingly enough, this was a really quick read because the chapters were all over the place. Some were short, some were long, so I figured it would take me longer to get through, but I couldn't put this one down. I was really addicted to the characters and the story, and I really enjoyed this one, and I loved the twists, I loved the turns. I did guess the major twist right before it happened, but I still really did like it, and I think I'm going to give it 4.5 stars. So I'm so happy I picked it up because I don't know when I would have otherwise if I wasn't reading it for this video. So thank you so much, Nicole, for this recommendation. And then I ended up picking up The Good Neighbor by A.J. Banner. This one was recommended to me by Nicole over at the Girly Girl Bookworm, and this one's only about 200 pages, and I'm already at about 150 pages, so I'm at the 75% mark. And this one is about a married couple. The husband is a doctor, the wife is a writer, and they live in this really nice house, and they have these neighbors that they're friends with. And the husband, who's a doctor, he travels for work, whereas I believe the wife works out of the home because she's a writer. And one evening she notices that her neighbor's house is on fire, and she ends up saving the little girl out of the fire, but the parents die and her own home ends up burning down as well. So we're kind of just following them and their marriage and her uncovering some secrets within the marriage. And she learned some things about the neighbors that she didn't know about them previously. And this one is really good. I wouldn't say it is a 5-star book, but I really do enjoy A.J. Banner's writing. I think if there's a couple little twists at the end, it'll increase my enjoyment. I guarantee I'll finish this tonight, so when I do, I will come back and update you guys. Okay, so it's about 8:30, and I just finished The Good Neighbor by A.J. Banner. And this one I am hovering between 3 and 3.5 stars. I rated their latest release, The Poison Garden, 3 stars, and I rated The Twilight Wife 4 stars, and I think that The Good Neighbor kind of falls in between those two books. What I struggle most with A.J. Banner's books is their length. This one was only 200 pages and there's a lot of storylines going on, so I feel like to fully flesh those out there would have needed to be another 150 pages added to it. But I still did really enjoy it, and I'm glad I read it. I just couldn't give it more than like 3.5 stars just because some of the things weren't really fleshed out the way I wanted them to be. Some of the twists kind of came from left field. Some of the storylines didn't seem really necessary, but I always really enjoy reading AJ Banner's books, and I'm really glad that Nicole introduced me to this author overall. So now I've read 3 out of the 6 recommendations. I don't think I'll be doing any more reading tonight as I've read 2 whole books today, but I want to just do a quick update before I went to sleep, and I will check back in with you guys tomorrow. Okay, so it's Tuesday, November 12th, and this morning I picked up Post-mortem by Patricia Cornwell, and this was recommended to me by Audrey over at Chapter and Converse. And this is a crime novel. It is the first in a series following a medical examiner named Kay Scarpetta, and she is the chief medical examiner in Richmond, Virginia. And over the past few months in Richmond, Virginia, there's been a serial killer that has been killing women on Saturday mornings, and he strangles them to death and mutilates them and sexually abuses them. But other than that, there's no link to the victims. There's been 3 killings so far, but one evening, Kay Scarpetta, she gets a call in the middle of the night to do an examination, and it's of a 4th victim. So not only are we following Kay and her job as the medical examiner, but we're also kind of following the police force in their investigation. And I definitely have some thoughts about this story. I do find it really interesting because this is the anniversary edition, but the original copy was published, I believe, in the 90s. So I just looked in the cover and it said it was originally published in 1990. So it's nearly 30 years old, and I believe that Patricia Cornwell's writing definitely set the stage for other women to write crime fiction. So I do respect her and what she did for the writing community. So Karen Slaughter started writing her series in the early 2000s, and I guarantee you she got inspiration from Patricia Cornwell. As you guys know, I love Karen Slaughter. I love her series. I love her standalones. I think that in the 90s, this story definitely felt more fresh than it would today. I think it's been rewritten several times, and I've seen this kind of story before, but I think at the time in 1990 there probably weren't as many books like this out on the market. With that said, the writing style is a little hard for me to get into. It's very info dumpy, it is very slow and dry, and so if that's not really your thing, this might be hard for you to digest. So it's one of those books that I really have to focus on every word in it. I can't really do any kind of skimming. I can't just casually read it. I have to really put all of my effort into it. And right now I'm on page 320 and it has 420 pages, so I'm almost finished with the book. It isn't a slow read. I've been getting through it. It's one of those traditional kind of police procedural books, so I am liking it. I'm not loving it. Right now, if I were to have to rate it, I'd probably give it about 3 stars. So I'll have to wait until the end and see if there's any big twists. That could definitely bump up my rating. I'm also curious to see how it's going to set up the next book. I don't know if I'm going to pick up any more in the series just because the writing of this is a little bit hard for me, but depending how the ending is, I might. So when I end up finishing this, I will come back and update you guys later. Okay, so it's after 8 p.m. now, and this afternoon I finished Post-mortem by Patricia Cornwell, and this one I only actually ended up having like 60 more pages. The rest of the content of the book was just like bonus content, and so it looked like it was 420 pages, but it really wasn't. So it took me no time at all to finish this. I didn't guess who the serial killer was, and I thought that was really well executed, but I did find it a little bit slow and info dumpy. And I picked up my next book, and I am about 50 pages in, and that is Close My Eyes by Sophie Mackenzie. And this was recommended to me by Jackie over at We Be Bookin', and I've read one other book by Sophie Mackenzie, and I can already tell I like this one better than the one that I previously read. And this is about a married couple named Jen and Art, and 8 years ago they had a daughter named Beth, and she was stillborn, and ever since they've had several IVF treatments and they've all failed, and so they still haven't had a child after all of these years. I think they're both really haunted by the death of their daughter, and it's really hard for them to move on, and their marriage is kind of struggling. And one day out of the blue, a woman shows up on their doorstep and she talks to Jen, and she claims that her sister was the nurse that was in the operating room when they delivered Beth, and that Beth is not actually dead, but she's alive, and that the doctor stole the baby. And this woman has no idea where the baby went, but her sister was the nurse and told her on her deathbed about this incident, and she didn't want it on her conscience when she died, and so that's how she found out about it, and she's now telling Jen about it. And this prompts Jen to kind of look into her marriage and look into her life, and she feels like she's going crazy because her heart tells her to believe this woman, but everyone is telling her not to. Like I said, I'm only about 50 pages in, and it's nearly 400 pages. So I'm not very far in, but I'm really enjoying it so far, and I really like this kind of pregnancy baby aspect to it. So I'm going to try and get some more reading done tonight, and I will check back in with you guys tomorrow. Okay, so it's Wednesday, November 13th, and this morning I finished Close My Eyes by Sophie Mackenzie. Last time I checked in, I was less than 100 pages into the book, but I ended up reading the rest of it this morning when I woke up. And I really liked this one. I thought it was a really quick read. It was really easy to get through, and it reminded me a lot of a book I read recently for Thriller Talks After Dark called The Secret She Keeps by Michael Robotham. And so I see why Jackie loved this one, because the two of those books actually remind me of each other, not only in some of the plot points, but also because of the writing style. The writing style between Sophie Mackenzie and Michael Robotham is kind of similar, and they have this kind of tonal language to it that reminds me of each other. I liked it, but I felt the plot wasn't super original. I've seen this kind of plot before. So I ended up giving this one 3.5 stars. I liked it more than the other Sophie Mackenzie book I read, and that one I gave 3 stars. So this one I enjoyed a little bit more. So I'm really glad that Jackie recommended this to me, because I don't know if I would have picked it up otherwise, and I did really enjoy it, and I'm glad that I read it. So the last book I have to read for this video is Into the Darkest Corner by Elizabeth Haynes. And this one was recommended to me by Beth, and I have no idea what the premise of this is, but I looked at the cover, and to me it looks like it'll be a domestic thriller, and the average rating on Goodreads is over 4 stars, which is really good, and it has quite a few ratings, so I have really high hopes that I'm going to love it. Okay, so it's Thursday, November 14th. It's about 4 p.m., and yesterday I started Into the Darkest Corner by Elizabeth Haynes. Like I was saying in my last clip, I didn't really know what it was about, so I went in blind, and I'm kind of glad that I did, because I'm enjoying it so far. It's about a woman named Catherine, and we're following her in 2 different timelines. We're following her in like 2003/2004, and we're also following her in like 2007-2008. In the past timeline, Catherine has this new boyfriend, and he seems perfect, and everyone's telling her that he's such a great boyfriend, but he turns abusive and controlling, and she has no way to get away from him, and we know that she ends up getting attacked by him, and he goes to prison. And now we're following her currently, and she's kind of dealing with the aftermath of that attack. She has severe OCD, and it really inhibits her life. And she lives in this building, and upstairs a guy moves in named Stuart, and they have a romantic relationship. And at the same time, the guy who went to prison for attacking her, he is now being released. And it's causing her OCD to be worse, because she's really worried that he's coming after her. I was a little intimidated because this is nearly 400 pages and the text is pretty small in here, but even still, it's a fairly quick read. Yesterday I got to page 275 out of like 390 something, so I only have about 120 pages left. I could have definitely finished this either last night or today, but I didn't want to finish it prior to updating you guys, so I ended up putting it down and reading something else. But I'm gonna pick it up now, and I'm gonna finish it, and when I end up finishing it, I'm gonna come back and update you guys. Okay, so it's a few days later. It is now Sunday, November 17th, and I finished my last book, Into the Darkest Corner by Elizabeth Haynes, I think on Friday, and I ended up really enjoying this book. It was recommended to me by Beth, so thank you, Beth, for recommending it. I ended up giving it 4 stars. I don't think it was a 5-star read for me, because it was a little bit predictable. Like, it was pretty obvious where the story was going, but the way it was executed was really well done. Like I was saying, it was dual timelines with the same woman, past and present, and this was kind of a hard book to read because it really included a ton of gritty details about domestic abuse. So if that's something you're sensitive to, you might not enjoy this one. So now I'm going to go over all of the books that I read and their star ratings. The first one I read was The Broken Girls by Simone St. James. This one was recommended to me by Tia, and I gave it 4 stars. The next one that I read is The Good Neighbor by A.J. Banner. This was recommended to me by Nicole, and I gave it 3.5 stars. The next book that I read is Before I Go to Sleep by S.J. Watson. This was recommended to me by the other Nicole, and I gave it 4.5 stars. The next book that I read is Post-mortem by Patricia Cornwell. I was recommended this by Audrey, and I gave it 3 stars. The next book that I read is Close My Eyes by Sophie Mackenzie. I was recommended this by Jackie, and I gave it 3.5 stars. The last book that I read is Into the Darkest Corner by Elizabeth Haynes. I was recommended this by Beth, and I gave it 4 stars. So overall, I think this went really well. I enjoyed most of the books that I read. I knew that I wouldn't like all of these thrillers as much as I probably enjoyed all of the romance books. For me, romances are pretty straightforward. I know which ones I'm going to enjoy. But with thrillers, because I go into most of them blind, they're kind of hit or miss for me, where some people love it and some people hate it. So I knew my ratings for these books might be a little more all over the place. But even with that said, most of them I gave 3.5 stars or above. And for me, that is still a really enjoyable read. And I feel like I had so many good reads in this video. My favorite by far was Before I Go to Sleep by S.J. Watson. This one just came out of left field. I had no idea I was going to enjoy it as much as I did, so I'm really happy that this video prompted me to read it. I'm definitely going to do this style of video again in the future. Like I said before, I will link all of the booktubers down below, as well as the books that I talked about. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys on my next one. Bye!